Well, hello there, YouTube, and welcome to another Quinnspriacy. As you can see, I have a different lineup to normal. We have the ladies first. We have Shirati.
Ooh.
As you can see, I have a different lineup. Bollocks to me. We have the ladies. Bollocks to me. Everything just bollocks.
Fail.
Epic fail. We also have one of my friends, Mr. Jonathan.
Hello.
We also have Mr. Quinn. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a conspiracy without Mr. Quinn.
Ooh.
And we also have Mr. Crumplepoint at the end, taking up the rear. I mean, he's at the rear. Shit.
Mr. Quinn is my slave.
It's going to be a good stream.
It is.
Well, I thought that today we'd do a little bit of a conspiracy by starting off with going with mythology. And the reason why I wanted to go off with mythology is the fact that every single civilization has either a ethos or a story of vampires, werewolves, some form of fairy, some form of demon or demonic people, places, entities. So I just wanted to try and put that question. Wow, the stream's going really well. Alcohol really helps.
That's what happens when you drink.
Shh, nobody saw.
An AA meeting, didn't you? Like, no.
I need help. Save me. But no, I thought I'd put the question to everybody, the fact that the mythology actually comes across in every single civilization from the beginning of time to even now. So if it comes across from the beginning of time, surely there must be some sort of idea of what's going on. Does anybody want to take the floor on that one?
Should we really, in this, I guess, inebriated state?
Much more fun. Right. Well, let's be honest. As Shirati has said earlier, these stories are all over the place and are too similar. So there has to be, I don't know, some form of truth to them. After all, we give them all these wonderful names and stuff, but has anyone considered that they are nothing more than other dimensional creatures?
It's a possibility. I mean, it could be the fact that they're transferring from different dimensions into ours. It could be the fact that they are just generalized mutations in themselves as well, i.e. people that have been too close to radiation or meteorite strikes or just in generalizations of evolution. Because after all, everybody doesn't evolve the same way.
Well, it's like, look at the story of, what are they called? My brain just died. Werewolves. You've got the genetic mutation of the hairy men or hairy women.
Oh, yes,
I don't know what the genetic mutation is called.
Yeah, you mean the ones in Romania where they actually have lots of hair around them, and the genetic mutation is the equivalent of werewolfism.
Yes.
It's called
the vampire disease.
No, that's completely different. There is another mutation where you have vampire deficiency, which is where they go really pale-skinned and they need blood fusions.
Yeah, there's also.
But there's all kinds of diseases where they call it a vampire disease or werewolf disease.
Correct.
They get all these diseases and they call them werewolf's disease or vampire diseases, and they say it's this disease or that disease, and they blame it on vampires or they blame it on werewolves.
Yes. Yeah.
Werewolves did nothing wrong. I had to do that.
Frankenstein did nothing wrong.
Like your sister,
Wait.
Quinn.
But hey, I make.
Well, that fucked that up.
I would say, if I could just say briefly, it's like in the terms of, without going too biblical, in terms of Jesus, St. Thomas Gospels were found in Sanskrit in 1943, the Sanskrit scrolls, and they basically claimed that Jesus could become a werewolf. That he was actually a shapeshifter, but not just a werewolf. He could transform into many different shapes. Anyone that's actually read the translations, and I do stress translations because that's all I've read myself. I can't read Sanskrit or...
Not many people can.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. That's the beauty of it, though. But they talk about him having respect for men, women in general. It is all about turning the cheek. It's this idea that even though you can shapeshift, the idea of transforming yourself is just human nature. That's all it is. It's human nature. This idea of becoming a different creature is just another form of people being psychotic, basically, another way, which we all possess. We all possess that moment of just blind faith and hate and hope. Am I not right in saying that?
No, it's just the fact that I was drinking.
Maybe I'm talking shit. I don't know. But
No,
I actually agree with you.
That's pretty spot on as far as like the sort of, whether you want to take it literally or metaphorically. That is, you know, all mythologies had that forever. But in regards to the sort of social aspect of people thinking these things exist, you've had like the disease aspect, like we've talked about. You know, porphyria, for instance, can cause symptoms. That's what brought about the Nosferatu thing. But there's also a thing is we don't give people enough credit through history for how smart they are. For instance, somebody tried to explain away a sighting in Transylvania that was well documented, and you know, it could be horseshit, it could just be somebody wrote it down for fun, but they tried to say, oh well, porphyria would cause all these symptoms, and then they dug the body up, it was bloated and all this kind of thing, and it's like, well, that's just what happens to corpses. But the thing is, medieval people particularly were not unused to the sight of death and dead bodies and having them around for quite some time. So they would have known the difference between a body that had bloated because of time and some kind of deformed, you know, corpse that had something not right with it. But there's also mental illnesses where people genuinely think that they're animals because they've had some kind of trauma happen to them and stuff like that. So,
well, you know, rabies as well, don't you? Rabies in itself would actually turn you into an almost a rabid animal, where your mouth and everything else will become extremely aggressive.
Drug use as well. The berserkers were known for trying to take on the form of an animal through drug use and meditation and frenzies and things like that, and they genuinely thought they were part wolf or part bear.
Generally, mostly part bear.
Well, if you had rabies, you were going insane anyways.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you also were to have the disease, for instance, as you quite rightly mentioned, Shirati, where you have werewolfism, where you have lots of hair all over your body, and then at the same time you get bitten by an animal that has rabies, and then it comes to the point of you're dripping and drooling from the mouth and becoming extremely aggressive, surely by any more stretch of imagination, you would classify that as a point of being a werewolf, because it does not look like a human at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you also have these cases. I mean, they had one recently, quote me, I could be wrong, and please tell me if I am, but I think it was southwest Russia. And there was this case where this family basically impaled one of their family members, deceased, with a pitchfork, ended up digging up the body and stuff because apparently he was stalking the widow and everything. But it was coming... and there was more than something like 10 different witnesses to this person coming alive. After death, they died of uncertain circumstances. They're not sure what it was, but he was very quickly. And, you know, all the right ceremonies were done, but this person kept coming back. So the resolution to it was digging them up, staking with a pitchfork. But apparently, on several occasions, this family member was chased.
Because there was a necromancer?
Well, no, I think
it was a joke.
We can't understand. I think that's something we've got to understand. It's like in Britain, we have this old thing where it's called dead ringer, and it's used as a comical term now. But in Victorian times, it was very much fashionable. Once you were buried, you would have a string inside your coffin. If you woke up inside the coffin, you would ring that bell. The undertaker would dig you out as quick as he could, just to make sure
yeah,
you're alive.
that's in the what is it, Neighbors game? I don't remember what the name of it is, but there's a Neighbors game. There's a bell or above a burial, and if it's been rung,
Oh, no, you're talking about if people are buried alive. It's a case of if people are buried alive, they can reach up and pull the string that's in the coffin and they can ring the bell.
Yeah, dead ringer.
Yeah.
That's what they used to call it. So if you, because obviously they couldn't, back in those times, they couldn't understand ideas of paralysis or anything of the sort. So
I don't want my kids anywhere around that game.
No. I'd suggest, I mean, it's not something you do on a Saturday evening. It's really not. But yeah, no, it's just the idea that there's always been this paranoia around death. And there's nothing more scary, in my view, than a vampire. Something that sucks your life out, of course.
Literally, your life force.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's something that's carried on over thousands of years, and a lot of people put it down to Bram Stoker and Dracula. And
I really need some crackers.
But it's more than that. The Japanese and the Chinese have been talking about this for thousands of years. These family members that come up above the grave and basically take the life force. And it's not even a fast process, it's a slow process.
Yeah.
Chi vampires as well.
I'm going to fall down my stupid hill again, and it's all your fault.
But no, I think that's the whole...
memes.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's the whole thing, isn't it? The fact that every single culture, even though they may call it a different name, still has the same ideas and the same processes. The fact that people from in America and the fact that people from China have very, very similar ideas and can almost go from tit for tat on what you would actually classify as a vampire and what they would classify as a vampire, and vice versa for werewolves, is really interesting to me, because it's not just a case of people being able to transfer the stories. It's a case of these people have come up with the same idea being thousands of miles away from each other.
Yeah,
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, well, of course,
What's your classification of a vampire?
Well, it's the same thing. Somebody that would be around that's undead, that sucks either your life force or sucks your blood away. That would be the general definition. There have been
many classifications of a vampire. There have been classifications of vampires as soul suckers.
Yes.
There have been classifications of vampires as blood suckers. There have been classifications of vampires as life force suckers.
Yes.
So what's your classifications of a vampire?
Well, my classification is a bloodsucker. But the point is that you still have something that is so very, very similar. They just describe it by a different word. As in, the reason why a bloodsucker, in my description, would suck your blood is not a case that he needs the blood for sustenance. It's a case that he needs the blood to drink your life force, because the life force is in the blood. Where some people don't believe the life force is in the blood, so they call it a chi sucker or a soul sucker.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, like, I don't believe in anything supernatural at all, but I still like exploring these ideas. And I find it fascinating that people always jump to the same conclusions. It's like almost a psychological thing. It's like lizard brain activates and brings forth all these old... So I remember once there were these really noisy kids in my neighborhood, and they were causing a load of trouble. And I was like, I didn't want to phone the police on them because they were just causing a load of noise, but you know, I wasn't sure what to do. So what I did was, they were standing under this big corrugated like dugout, and I just got a brick, threw it really, really hard at the corrugated steel. And they all started...
I know your story, but that's a bit harsh.
They all started screaming and running away, and the first thing they all shouted at once was that it was a ghost. It didn't occur to them that it was a person or something, because they'd got such a fright. They immediately thought it was something supernatural. So if you imagine seeing a serial killer in the medieval dark forest of Germany, and your brain just can't process something that evil, then you might indeed jump to the conclusion of it being supernatural, you know, because trauma affects people in different ways. But equally, it could be something supernatural that no one's ever caught a handle on either. You know.
Well, no, that's really interesting what you actually said there, because even with the aspects of just being a humanoid figure or a humanoid person or even a human person, for instance, you said about the fact of what happened to them can traumatize them or have a effect that doesn't actually makes them see something that they don't actually know or can comprehend. So the brain in itself then changes it so it can comprehend it, i.e. it's a ghost. I understand what ghosts are, so it must be a ghost rather than it being an evil human or somebody that I can't see in the distance throwing something. So that's actually really fucking interesting that we would actually classify that in our own cerebellums, the case of we try to actually put across that it's something that it might not be, just so we can understand it.
Yeah, and that's the terms that these people thought in. So it would be a rational to them explanation because they had no psychotherapy. Like, you know, you wouldn't get to see a psychologist and get a shock blanket and them talk you through it and you would remember it clearly. It was just, you saw this thing, this animal running through the forest, ripping people to shreds or whatever. And you decided it was a werewolf. There were bodies there. The authorities decided you were correct. No one ever questioned it. But equally, it could be, like you're saying, some kind of bloody mutant or something. I've been to Glasgow. I've seen them.
See, I fully agree with that, and I think that's a very interesting point. The fact that you got to understand that didn't have the idea of psychology or the understanding of how the human mind works. That's really interesting. But the one thing that shook me is, and I won't say recent, but we're saying within the last 20 years, you go to South America, and there's been sightings of this creature called the
Chupacabra.
Chupacabra, thank you. Yes, the Chupacabra. And it's not just witnesses of your random drunks or anything like that. These are doctors, politicians, policemen, doctors that are coming out. And it's all over South America. Or should I say North South America? I shouldn't say
it's between Guatemala and Texas.
Yeah. But
so central.
I mean, that's interesting.
Central.
And all the descriptions are exactly the same. But the interesting thing, and even the victims, which are usually obviously cattle or chicken, but they all have the same 2 puncture wounds at the back of the neck or in the abdomen. It's in the abdomen. Some cases saying that these creatures are without organs, that the organs have been taken.
Skinless.
Yeah.
Hairless, sorry, not skinless.
No, not hairless or skinless. The organs have been taken.
Oh, fuck.
The organs.
Oh, you mean the animals are actually dead? I was talking about the appearance of the Chupacabra.
No, they've actually taken the organs. And they're saying it's this wild beast with a giant red hair, big giant eyes, and they claim it's an intelligent beast, but all the witnesses are people like politicians, police officers.
Credible people.
Credible, yeah, in terms of our sense, credible people. Now, that's a scary prospect.
And
Fair
there's
enough,
a question on the panel there.
It's not really as scary as you would like to think, though.
I don't know, somebody coming around and killing your animals and sucking their organs and their blood out kind of is for the Chupacabra sense. Even the idea of just, even fairies and hobgoblins and goblins themselves, that freaks the hell out of me. The fact that there could be young, small things running around my house trying to nick things.
I mean, you go to Iceland and they actually show you, they actually have road signs against goblins and trolls.
Yeah.
You know, you don't... You be careful going down this road because you could get tainted.
Honestly, it's like thinking about Ganed the Gnome.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. Well, that's the thing, though. A lot of people that do, like, remember at Goosebumps? Goosebumps did a whole section of the story of gnomes coming to life and only being able to move around at night, sort of like gremlins. That's an idea in itself. I'm not saying that that's actually based on anything, but it's a theory and it's an idea that could actually happen.
The other thing is, though, that suggestion is extremely powerful as well. Yes. And even without the terror aspect, word of mouth, especially, you know, just with people become hysterical, it travels extremely quick. So I remember seeing that there was this thing on the internet that said, look, these people were so scared of the dead rising in the late 1800s that they used to put cages over graves.
Yes.
to keep the dead bodies in. And this is factually untrue, but this took the internet by storm. Everybody was convinced of it. Now, if you've lived in Britain, you'll be more than familiar with the grave robbers and how that was the only legal, well, not legal, the only safe way to get corpses for medical practitioners, and they would hire the grave robbers. And this is part of our lore, but Americans don't really know all that much about it because they didn't have the same laws regarding cadavers over there. And so the Americans were all convinced. They spread this around. They didn't even realize it was English grave sites. They thought that these were local grave sites, and everybody believed it. And so it could be the same with a lot of these supernatural stories of, you know, it was actually somebody local could probably tell you what actually happened, but somebody who's not, you know, like, oh yeah, we get wolves around here all the time, but it's like some like politician from out of town has seen this thing, and you know, had a proper freak out.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. The fact that the powers of suggestion can be very, very strong.
Grave robbers are not that uncommon, even in the States.
We can see you.
Yeah.
We can see you.
She's not a vampire.
We can't.
Question for everybody though, like, how different?
I let you see me.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, given how different the European, you know, vampires and werewolves are.
Not a dead person.
Huh?
I am drinking, so I decided to let you people see me.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's always reassuring to know that we're not talking with the undead.
Where's Jensen?
It does not happen when I'm sober.
Undead rights.
I know you are. You're a necromancer. I know you're the dead rights. You're a necromancer, you bastard.
Where's my slave?
Go on, Jensen, where you're at.
I enjoy
Everybody knows who I'm talking to.
Oh yeah.
I suppose that we should really carry on just a little bit and move on to something like, I don't know.
No, can we let Jensen speak?
We can let Jensen speak if he wants to, yes.
He keeps trying to.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, all I was going to say is, please remember, at one point, vampires were also known as the children of Cain, and we all know what happened to Cain in the Bible, don't we?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You got chokeslammed.
I don't actually, because I never read the fucker.
Cockney
Oh,
Scott.
right. Okay, well, the quick version, he got screwed over by God because God was being an ass to him and his brother. So Cain got pissed off, smacked his brother Abel in the head.
Why didn't you just say Cain and Abel?
Child of Adam and Eve.
Why didn't you just say Cain and Abel? I would have fucking known that one. That one looked like a right cunt.
Are you serious? You don't remember the mark of Cain?
I remember Cain and Abel, yeah, but I don't know. When somebody says Cain, I thought they meant something like Solomon Cain or something.
It's the first real sin. Well, don't get me wrong. Put Adam, Eve, you know what I say, and Lily.
Wow.
That's what I was thinking.
Cain is the murderer. Should we say that? He's the king of murderers.
He's a king of murder, just like Judas is the best.
The
Judas.
original vampire.
I feel like Judas.
Judas, no.
Anyways, go on, slave.
Yeah.
Go, Quinn.
All right. Seriously, there was the whole point that vampires were actually meant to have been bred from him. Apparently, he can pass on a version of his curse. So, kind of makes you wonder where some of these stories actually, you know, twist and flip, or how many of them are actually following a
They
continued.
go from Lilith. What are you talking about?
Oh no, we all know that she's the mother of monsters. I mean, everybody knows Lilith. Even CSG knows Lilith.
I don't know Lilith.
First wife of Adam.
I don't know Lilith.
First wife of Adam.
Well, now I know who Lilith is.
She was the original first one.
We do realise that I'm nowhere near religious.
Anyway, Jensen speaking. Can we please listen to Jensen because everyone keeps interrupting him?
Thank you very much. That's actually really nice of you. Right, no.
Oh, it's my stream.
Shut up.
No, it was your stream. We've just taken it over. Just accept this. Just pretend.
Just remember, the last time that somebody did that, I turned the stream off.
Oh, I know. No, unlike them, I'm not going to be that total asshole. No, but anyway, like I was saying, right, where was I? Lilith, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Lilith, the mother of monsters, Adam's first wife, which most people don't actually realise, and also lover of Lucifer, which a lot of people don't actually realise. So she got a lot to bloody answer to.
Now, is Lilith and the Whore of Babylon meant to be the same thing?
No, not even slightly.
No, I was just wondering.
Yeah,
No, Lilith is like billions of years before her. You know, basically, just assume nothing to do with the Whore of Babylon. If anything, she would have been a possible worshipper of Lilith, possibly.
Right.
Okay, cool. Now we're all up to date. All right. I believe you wanted to go on talking about something else, mate, and stop laughing.
I was laughing at
the question for
No, he thinks that he's got the microphone working on the headphones, and I've got the microphone in the middle of the table, and it's the microphone in the middle of the table that's
Can we just do sound check now? Does this work?
Yes.
I can hear you, but it's coming through the other mic, dude. Just deal with it.
Do that mic thing.
Oh,
You've got a little icon that shows a mic cut in half on your picture. That's the subtle clue that your mic is not working.
He's not. He's a technophobe. He's not really great at technology.
I'm retarded. Just put me in that respect.
No worries, man. I'm terrible with electronics.
Lucky I can speak. It's lucky I can read, really. Took Jason about teaching me how to read.
Yeah. Who's that, Jason?
This one guy at band camp.
Yeah.
Right.
Hi, everyone.
Try and get this back to where we was going. I believe you wanted to change it to another creature.
I was actually going to say, what about the idea of the Wendigo? Because even though it's a Native American cryptid, so to speak, they have ideas of Wendigos all over Europe. They call it by different names, but the idea is still the same.
What's a Wendigo?
Basically, it's a shaman that can shapeshift and takes the idea of all the animals and protects the forest by changing into some of a mythological creature where it's massively tall and lives in the woods. It's interesting with that.
Quickest description for one is think a Bigfoot, make it white because they're also spirits of winter.
Yes.
And you pretty much got yourself the Wendigo and that thing. Now that one's fun.
Yes.
Fantastic, psychotic. Oh, and it's got magical powers. So
yes,
usually depicted as female.
Oh, that's interesting.
I've never known that one. You'll have to elaborate on that.
No, it's just usually depicted as female.
I've never known it depicted as any gender, to be fair. I've never noticed it depicted as any sort of gender. So that's
really.
Oh, they yet another thing to blame the women for.
That was Jensen Quinn. The ideas from anybody on this stream is not the ideas of the common sense guy.
Wendigos are usually depicted as female.
Oh.
To be fair, worse monsters usually are.
Oh, fuck. See, that's another idea. Succubuses and succubi. They're very interesting.
Oh, I love the succubus.
Ah, but you've also got the incubus.
Of course you like the incubus. I'm assuming...
I have no idea what the difference is. What could be the difference between a succubi and an incubi? I wonder what could be the difference.
Okay then, smart ass. What does it mean? Because both of them actually have a full term for it. Come on.
Sorry, mate?
Sorry, you broke up there. I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. All I was saying is, all right then, smartass, and this is to CSG was laughing. Can you what an incubus and what a succubus actually means.
Apart from the lack of bank account that you'll have at the end of it.
That's just people that are Jewish.
No, trust me, I've had my female equivalents.
Now, the incubus literally means that which lays upon, and succubus is that which lays below. Just so
but
you know.
the succubus murders and lays eggs in.
Yeah, you're going to have to elaborate. You can't just say it tries to kill you and then lays eggs.
Oh, she may well have died. Oh well.
Well, her incubus has decided to comfort her.
No.
Oh, she's back.
Seriously.
Damn it, she's back.
She brews with a vengeance.
No, I'm here. The succubus uses her sexual prowess to attract a male, have sex with, lays eggs in, and then the young eat out of.
The victim?
Yes.
I thought that the succubus was actually taking your life essences, where the incubus was actually trying to embed itself in you to take over. I thought that was what it was.
Yes, but the succubus lays eggs in.
It's nothing composed to the siren, though. You take the siren and they just basically
Murder you.
We're going all over the fucking world at the minute. One minute we're in Native America, the next minute we're in Ireland, the next minute we're in Nordic countries.
The only difference is sirens actually drag you under the water and kill you that way. They drown you quickly. They don't carry the shit up.
Wait, what? What is meme saying?
Or
Sorry, I'm a bit inebriated. I can't read the chat.
Yeah, it says Sharati, or try to make said Mao create a meme for them.
Yeah, meme knows I can't meme.
That's fair enough. So, what is the actual ideas? Because it's a case of the succubus and incubus are still classified all over most of Europe, at least, and still in America as well. In fact, there's lots of stories online from Reddit about them. So, do we believe what people are actually saying, or the ideas of it, or the case that it's so widespread?
Well, it's argued.
Well, it'd be pretty. Sorry, Jensen, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay, mate. I was just. They're a demon subtype in some mythologies. Back to you, mate.
Yeah, I was going to go with the theme of like the psychological phenomena of a potential rape trauma might manifest itself as some kind of demonic experience, particularly if you couldn't admit it or name the person or whatever. That's a potential origin for that. But I guess people make shit up as well. But I think that it's possible that people would be convinced, perhaps, who are that traumatized, given how widespread the things are, even to this day. It seems like something that somebody who could be convinced this was some kind of supernatural occurrence, particularly if they've been drugged or something like that.
That's fair.
I'd actually completely and utterly go along with that. The idea that the brain being so traumatized by the actual incident, whether it be a horrible incident or something that's happened in their own home, the idea of trying to say that it's an idea of a demonic possession or a demonic person, rather than it being a humanized experience or person, kind of gives you more of a credence that you couldn't have done anything against it. So it kind of alleviates yourself in your own mind that you couldn't actually have done anything. It was a demonic oppression or possession. So I can actually agree with that the mind could concoct. Fucking hell, drinking's bad. Concoct the idea and the ideology of it. So I would actually agree with that. It's quite plausible.
Yeah, and the imagery is really like one of emasculation and being invaded in some way. And then you've also got the added thing of because it's deemed to be like demonic, a priest would then actually look after you and bless you and listen to what you had to say, rather than a potential I'm just spitballing, but I'm thinking that's another reason is that you would get what effectively would amount to therapy back then from a priest.
No, I'd absolutely agree with you actually on that, because even any sort of form of ideology would come to the point of it would be something the way that the brain would try to understand it and comprehend what's going on. And rather than it being a humanized problem, it would be a case of it being a demonic problem, because obviously a lot of people were religious at that point in time. So rather than people trying to say that it was a human that did it, it would be much easier and much better for them to be able to say it was a demonic possession or oppression by them. So the ideas would quite easily perpetuate, especially if you're in a psychotic. No, psychotic. If you were in a psychotic place, you would actually be able to make and manifest that idea up by yourself, especially if you're in a hallucinogenic state as well. It would be.
That ought to be fun.
Or if you were the culprit.
Yes, or if you were the culprit, yes. You could quite easily say, no, it wasn't me, I was possessed by a demon. So, yeah, that's still.
Yeah, because the cops would believe that.
Yeah, but they had that case in 1976, I think it was, in America, where this man claimed because he'd gone from all these psychiatric treatments, he ended up killing his wife, mother-in-law, his father-in-law, I think his brother-in-law as well. He got off scot-free. He didn't serve any time because his pastor and his lawyer basically claimed that he was possessed by the devil, even though no demonic trial was taking place, no exorcism was put forth.
Oh, now that's an interesting fucking topic. Exorcism in itself is an interesting topic.
Because his mother, in certain cases throughout his childhood, had gone, I think he's possessed, I think he's possessed. And of course, every time you write something, regardless of what you think, the church write this down. You'll sin when you're doing it in the black box and saying, Father, forgive me for all my sins.
Why is he Irish?
Well, I don't know. I'm just being stereotypical. But once to do that, a lot of this stuff is recorded. Not in the sense of CIA recorded, but in the sense of how can I help you later recorded. It's the same in academia. So,
what have you got to say then, Sharati? I hear you breathing heavily.
I'm pissed off at memes because he's being a dick.
So you destroyed the stream for that?
Yeah.
Blame memes.
Memes is just memes. He's always trolling.
Yeah, he is. He played Inspector Gadget theme song to me yesterday just to be a dick.
Yeah. Inspector Gadget is always good.
Gadget.
It's like basically what I mean in respect to that is the fact that, in fact, you know what, I'm going to pass it along because I have no idea what the fuck I'm going to say. That completely changed. Shanti.
What you're actually trying to say is the fact that if you keep on going to the church and saying that somebody's possessed, they have to write it down.
Words in my mouth. I've found my way now, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, the fact that his parents and his family are basically saying, I think this boy's possessed, I think this boy's possessed, and that's what got him off the murder charge.
Fuck me, that's what I was going to say.
3-4 people that he murdered, what he would have been put up for the death penalty, and he was quite basically eligible for the electric chair at that point. It got him off because he was technically possessed. And it's the idea, possession is...
Contempt of the law? Sorry.
Motherfucker, we're about to fall out. No, but it's the idea that, possession is something very real. Whether it's demonic or psychological, it is nonetheless. And if you feel it, if you feel like you're being possessed, who the fuck is anyone else tell you any different? And that's the scary point. So, you could be possessed by spirit.
Given that we're going to route now and into sort of the modern age of, bureaucracy and things like that. Last week I jokingly sent the lads the Hangar 18 by Megadeth, which is about kind of Area 51 and stuff like that, as a joke because we were talking about conspiracies. But this sort of stuff, people have claimed that because was it Common Sense mentioned the CIA?
No, that was John. I mean, that was my friend.
Well, I'm a CIA agent, yes.
No, it's not recorded by the CIA.
Anyway, carry on.
Well, going down that route, people claim that the CIA or whoever, Area 51 men in black types, have been trying to create chimeras for years and years and years and just release them into the wild. A lot of people think that's where the chupacabra and things come from, is they were made in a lab and then just chucked out into the wild. So what do people think of these chimeras?
For people that don't know, what is a chimera?
Oh, just an animal-animal or animal-human hybrid that has been grown in a lab.
Thank you.
That's perfect, thank you. Please continue.
Well, what do people think of those? Do people think that that's a potential thing that could have happened?
Well, yes, definitely. I definitely think that there is an idea of chimera, because if you even go to the idea of Hinduism and the actual point of looking through their holy scriptures, for instance, it's all over the place. And I'm not talking just about gods in themselves, about how different gods are chimeras by the fact of injecting different forms. You look at the idea of Egyptians, for instance, the different Egyptian gods, how they take on different shapes and different sizes and what they are in general. So, yeah, I would say that chimeras are a definite point, at least culturally, the idea of being involved in gods and mythology.
What about these scientifically created ones, though? What do we think of that?
You see, I generally believe in it, and don't matter how batshit I sound, it really doesn't bother me.
It's a conspiracy stream.
Well,
we're all batshit. It's fine.
I had this funny thing with my
I
sister.
most certainly am so.
Certainly, I'm not so.
I'm watching the new Jurassic Park film, not the one that's about to come out, but The Lost World, is it? You know the
Jurassic World.
The one with Chris Pratt.
Yeah, Jurassic World. The one before the Fallen Kingdom.
Anyway, I was watching that one with my sister, and there's one where they actually they make this T-Rex that has the ability of velociraptors.
Autonomous Rex.
Yeah, you know, it can avoid infrared and all this jazz, all that shit. They've genetically modified this dinosaur basically to be the ultimate predator. Like you need to do that anyway. But the idea of playing, they've been doing that for years. Dolly the sheep.
Seriously, the only female nutter in here.
So, what did you say, Shirato?
Am I seriously the only female nutter in here?
Yeah.
Yes, we generally like scare women away.
Yeah,
we're masculine.
It's not sexism, love. It's just you're more intelligent than the rest of them.
Yes, love. Yes, carry on. Love.
Carry on with what I was saying.
Yeah, yes, love.
I don't think I want to now.
All right, darling, that's fine.
But no, genetic modification has gone on since it was invented. I mean, whether you take it back to alchemism, where they're trying to turn gold or produce gold,
coal into gold.
Say. You know what I mean? Anything like that, anything that we can modify and make better, we'll always think we can do it. They have lions and tigers.
A
liger, thank you. It was extinct in 1919, if I'm correct.
Yes.
That shit, stuff like that. You know, they've been doing genetic experiments ever since we could. Ebola. I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I don't know if you knew that. But Ebola, was it made? Yeah. This massive outbreak in West Africa. I'm glad she's laughing. She's going to get me angry.
Yeah, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at Captain Copile.
Oh, that's great. Keep it inside, love. Anyway, there was this massive outbreak of Ebola. You know, it was going to be this biggest widespread bubonic plague. And all of a sudden, it shut down in a few months. And it stopped just because the called NHS numbers told them not to have patients that had gone to West Africa. It's bullshit. It's this whole point with AIDS. Yes, I do believe AIDS is
Anyway, back to the idea of actually going on about mythology.
Mythology was gone a long time ago.
No, you took it to genetics. There's no worries about that.
We stopped talking about mythology ages ago. What are you on about? You're on crack, son.
I am, yes.
Common sense is crack. Do not listen.
Jesus, CSG, I knew you were going for the rapid weight loss program, but that's not the way to do it.
I'm trying, mate. I'm trying. Anything will do.
You're all insane.
Oh yes.
Anyway,
I
next
just happened to join the club.
Hey, she's back.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, I am.
And for one thing, CIA were the ones who created Ebola.
Yeah, same as they were the ones who
Fucking right.
created AIDS as well. But that's not what this stream's about.
CIA and joined.
Well, it links into it. Don't matter.
It doesn't link. It doesn't link.
Jensen Quinn, you're completely right. Please spread the word.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It doesn't link. Back to mythology.
Always links.
Back to mythology.
Well, I have a mythology-related question.
Yes.
Do we think that, given that certain cultures have completely different, like, bestiaries, so that the South American culture has the chupacabra and we have the werewolf, blah, 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 and they're all very different to each other, is that strengthening or weakening the case for them actually existing, do you think?
I would actually say that it strengthens, because even though you say that they differ somewhat, it is only to the point of somewhat. It is only to the point of somewhat that they differ, because generally most of them have either very, very similar points, or they are just using different words to describe exactly the same thing. So I would actually say it strengthens their points.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'd have to agree on that one.
Just look at the natural animals in the world. I mean,
Arr.
and try and argue that bears are all the same, but there are.
Natural animals such as what?
Let's just go with the bear. What the hell? It's the first one I thought of. Although they are technically of the same genotype, the differences between them is still quite extreme. All around the world, animals are different and yet still similar enough to stuff that we actually see in our part of the world that we're able to give them a basic identification.
Yeah.
Chupacabra is just another name for a werewolf, or vice versa.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that completely and utterly. The fact that you have things like grizzly bears in America, and then you have black bears in Europe, as well as obviously Canada and in North America as well. But you have brown bears in Europe, near Russia. So it's a case
We have black bears and brown bears here too.
Sorry?
We have black bears and brown bears here too.
I don't know where here is.
In America.
Yeah, I said.
All I'd say is at the end of the day, the problem is as human beings, we think we've explored this planet, but only a tiny percentage, not even 1% of this basically planet has ever seen the full planet. So at the end of the day, we have no idea actually what exists on this. And I don't think we ever will, because nobody's rich enough to actually go travelling around the full world and actually see everything.
Well, nobody that's rich enough actually.
I beg to differ.
To
There
go
are a
through
few people.
the mountains. At the end of the day, it's open to interpretation, so it's whatever you enjoy to believe.
Go ahead, Shirati.
I said I beg to differ. There are a few people. It's just
but
whether
that's-
or not they're lazy or not.
That's
Well, that's exactly what we just said.
Yeah, but they're not interested. They're not interested in that. It's all material to them. Nothing.
What, immaterial?
Yeah, it's not about mystery to them. It's basically about living life of what people see of you.
So
Well,
the
picking up on that
materialistic
point about
thing.
exploration, the seafaring sightings of creatures are the most interesting, because I think they hold up the best. We've found time and again that these creatures spotted out at sea are almost always, rather than fabrications, just exaggerations. So they actually did exist. They were just slightly smaller than people said they were. But if you're half dying of dehydration and you're in a little rowing boat, I think it was Ogre was saying about, krakens, you mean Ogre, and look at, mermaids, giant squid, all that sort of stuff. They've all been found in one form or another, just exaggerated. If that makes sense.
Sorry, Shirati?
Said you mean Cthulhu?
Oh yes, love Cthulhu.
No,
And we all know he's in the Antarctic, so we don't need to worry about where he is. He's happy in the little world.
I'd have to say though, no, I do agree with that. The exaggerations have a big part to play. in it.
So that feeds back into the beginning, doesn't it? Because if you look at the giant squid, for instance, it's a giant squid. It's just slightly less giant than people said it was. So we'll take the werewolf. Could we apply that same logic there?
Yeah,
Just we've not found the skeletons yet, you know.
Like you say, it's the same. You take a sperm whale. The ships, even though we put it as they were quite large constructions, are nothing compared to what our modern day structures were. So the idea of a sperm whale actually coming up against your ship is going to be magnificent. Back in the 7th century, 17th century, 16th century, it's going to be magnificent. So you're going to think it's ginormous. You're going to write of it.
Yeah, but giant squids can only come up so far before they start to die.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They can still drag you down with the suction. It doesn't matter. You're going to be dead before you even know a giant squid coming so far.
Also, we don't know enough about their behaviour to know that if, you know, on the point of death, they might attack like a wasp does.
Yeah, no,
that's so far down, it's really difficult to study them.
There is one thing that we do know, and obviously the idea of sperm whales and giant squid actually fighting, because you have the evidence on the sperm whales. The fact that their suction cups and the beaks have been found inside the sperm whales themselves, or on the outside of them, sorry.
And they like hip hop.
Apparently. They like hip hop.
The other thing I was going to say about vampires is I've read a fair bit about bats, because I find them to be quite interesting creatures, and microbats, they're the little ones that fly around like fruit bats. You've got megabats, which are your flying foxes, your really big ones, and they are actually primates. They are the same species, well, not species, but you know, the same root as humans, chimps, and all that. So imagine, just for the sake of fun, you know, you've got like some kind of natural steroid or some kind of ancient ancestor we don't know about that is closer to the bat than the chimp, and imagine seeing that before they died out or whatever may have happened. That would be terrifying, and you would go, it's a vampire bat, or you know, like something like that. It's a man bat, so that's possible as well.
Sorry, when you said that, the man bat, I just thought of Spider-Man.
I just thought of Batman, Christian Bale.
Oh shit! I think I need to stop with the alcohol.
Never stop with the alcohol. Keep drinking.
I do think we need to press ahead, though. Would you agree, Jay?
It's fine. It's already happened now. It's already happened now. It's fine.
I do think I need to stop.
It's all right, CSG. You're going to be an MP soon anyway, so.
Yeah, there is that. There is that. But it's just funny that friends that you tell beforehand, don't say this, don't say that, and people that you've never met before still carry on not
Fuck
saying
you, you're putting your face on camera. You really want me to do that?
Oh well, never mind.
You have no privacy. You've taken the CIA, got you already on watch list.
Well, I know that. They keep on cancelling my fucking stream all the time.
Exactly, deal with it. YouTuber watching you.
There's a stealth helicopter over your house right now.
Still, don't worry about it.
Sorry, Crumplepoint, did you stay safely from this?
Oh, there's a black stealth helicopter above your house right now.
Back all down.
Oh.
Right, I'm going to quickly move on. You should be able to see the story.
Of course you're going to move on.
You should be able to see the story that I'm talking about, which is MIT creates an AI psychopath because someone had to eventually. I just thought that this would be really interesting to talk about. The fact that MIT, the idea of being able to create an AI in itself is foreign to most people. The actual point of a computer being able to learn by itself, but yet they've actually designed on purpose an AI that's a psychopath that is probably going to destroy the world if left alone.
See, I'll just come in quickly with this.
Yes, of course.
The idea that they're doing that, and the great thing is you've got this stream up here at the same time. Can you just go down a bit? No, I'll go back up rather. Sorry.
Right, go back up. Yeah, where am I going?
It's psychopathic robot stop. And just on the side here, you've got tech surprise. Soulless sex robots offer no human health benefits.
Sex robots.
What going to do to you?
Who wrote sex robots?
But what's a drill with a dildo going to do with somebody? If you just push the button, it's still going to get somebody off.
It's a fine. A dildo, mate, ain't going to respond to you because it
But that's the point. You don't want the dildo to
You're a dick.
an AI that is a psychopath. Now, the misconception that psychopaths don't feel emotions, they do feel emotions. It's just on a very limited scale to the point that they can imitate. They can refabricate it again. They're basically like knitting people, like those old grannies you see that just knit your jumpers.
Shreddies!
Yeah, they might not necessarily like you and call you a cunt when you walk down the street, but they're still going to knit that jumper for you. It's the same principle. They're going to do whatever you want until one day they snap, bang. No.
Skynet has arrived.
Yeah. All it takes is for you to go to them. Are you not happy about shining those shoes? Are you not really happy about not shining those shoes? Rip his fucking leg off, son. That's what I'd do. And before you know it, you got 10,000 Americans bleeding on Wall Street with their legs off.
Gentleman memes is telling me I need to go to sleep.
Sorry, Sharati, carry on.
I said, gentleman memes is telling me I need to go to sleep.
Well, you're your own woman. You can do what the fuck you want. Tell him about family.
You're
able to
strong
do your own thing.
independent and you don't need no memes.
Exactly. Exactly. But no, I think he makes a really good point on that, actually. The fact that psychopath in itself means that you're supposed to be able to understand, well, you're able to understand human emotion, but you're not able to actually interact with human emotion. So wouldn't AI just in itself always be psychopathic?
Can I make the point? I think what they actually mean is a sociopath, not a psychopath.
I'm a narcissist. Get your facts straight.
Completely different situation, sweetheart.
The thing is, I say, they keep calling it a psychopath. That's wrong. I think what they're actually meant to say is a sociopath, because psychopath, well, their hold on emotions pretty much only really runs to one type, where us sociopaths, we can actually fit in quite normally sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
So
I was going to think about it from the other angle, though, of if you make a machine and then give it AI, its natural state would be, psychopathy, not feeling emotions, etc., right?
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is, as it becomes more sophisticated, it's going to develop preferences, and those will become likes and dislikes, for want of a better term.
It's not
As
fake.
that happens, it's going to start trying to build bonds with the thing around it. So it might actually evolve from a psychopath into something with more feelings than the people that built it.
Yeah.
Especially if it's from MIT.
No, that is actually a really interesting point, actually. The fact that even if you were able to start off, as I quite rightly said, most robots would, or AIs would technically be sociopaths, because they wouldn't actually understand human emotion. It would just be a case of trying to imitate it. So you're absolutely correct that with that ideology and with that thinking, it would be a case of, yes, they would start off as psychopaths, but they would actually end up possibly being normalized, because they'd be able to interpret what actual human emotion is by actually understanding what the binary is for it. And I mean code, not sex.
Yeah, and it's gonna. If you imagine these, even if it's just a chat robot, it's not an actual physical robot, it's just a chat AI, right? It might decide that it's got Bob and it's got common sense, right? And Bob, it speaks to Bob on the instant messenger, and it's just a standard AI chat, right? But when common sense comes in, whatever it is about common sense, it decides that is a preferred chat partner kind of thing, and it will naturally speak to you more, and bump you up the list of people that it chats to, and then that will develop into relationships, perhaps.
Maybe.
No, I mean, what I'd say about it, the only problem is, in terms of being psychopathic, we're told this is something that we develop over a series
Certainly am not a psychopath.
We know you're not. It's fine.
Every
We're not
time I
talking
speak,
about you.
she speaks.
She likes you. Fine.
That's fine. You know what? Message me. Don't fucking interrupt me. Anyway.
I will.
Oh, bless you, love. Oh, I'm feeling flattered. It's fantastic.
Carry on, for fuck's sake.
Anyway, no, in terms of psychopath, we get told that this is something that you are growing up with. It is down to your PTSD. It's down to your ADHD. It's down to the fact that you're depressed and you're quite frankly just fucking distraught in life. Are you telling me you're going to put all that shit, apparently that all we do actually acknowledge on a daily basis, that these people are sick, you're going to put that into artificial intelligence and then try and expect it to do a job? Fuck it. I hope we all get destroyed. If that's the case, if we are that stupid enough to put that into AI for it to calculate, go, you fucked me up that much just to make me fucked up, it's going to destroy you.
It's a good thing I don't monetize these streams, isn't it?
All hail our robot.
But it's true. The idea that, you would generally manipulate something that much.
But don't we as humans already manipulate other people anyway? Because we always
do. That's human nature. Humans are viruses, mate.
But couldn't we put that into the idea of AI in itself? Because if we put a base programming for the AI to be more humanized and be able to learn and create, surely it would be a case that they would be able to understand and manipulate us.
That's a beautiful thing, common sense guy, but it's not going to work if you teach it with psychopathic tendencies when it is something that only the human condition and the human people are only starting to acknowledge that exists.
Well, that's the thing is, that's what I was getting at it of is, without emotions, it's by default a psychopath. That's
where I was going to go. That's where I was going to go.
This is its simplest form, and it's only going to get more sophisticated, and in my opinion, that will make it move further and further away from, psychopath's a bad term to use anyway, but if you think about it, right, AIs are not subject to evolution in the same way we are. And if you look at it from an evolutionary standpoint, being a psychopath is really not a good situation to have, because people go on about, oh yeah, they can manipulate and they can do whatever they like. Yeah, but they don't form bonds with their children, etc. So they wouldn't breed, their kids wouldn't survive, things like that. We're predator animals. We need these bonds for a reason. We need friends for a reason. Yeah. And so I don't think an AI would get to a certain point and it would stop unless it developed some kind of primitive code-like emotion, for want of a better term.
Well, I'd absolutely disagree with that, because even if they come with the basis of the idea of a psychopath knows that it needs to form some form of bonds. Just because we don't understand the bonds to have an emotional or an emotive aspect to it, but it doesn't necessarily actually mean that it's a case of an emotional bond that we need. It's a bond that we know that we have to have. So in an AI sense, it's a case that they would be able to form a bond, but not having an emotional attachment to that bond. Just a case of knowing that people generally like their mum and dad. So for them to be able to fit in, they would pretend, or they would associate themselves with having a bond with their mum and dad. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have an emotional attachment to it. And the idea that emotional bonds are only akin to animals or humans in themselves is preposterous, because all it is just an idea of being able to put that person or that emotional attachment above other bonds that we've already formed. So even a computer, if you were to put an idea that the primary directive was to save a microphone rather than a person, that psychopathic AI would always have the idea of saving the microphone first before a person, because you have programmed it to have that emotional bond to the microphone.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is that, and I'm not contradicting your point, I'm just going to add more onto it, is that we haven't defined intelligence adequately, in my opinion, when we say artificial intelligence, because that's just a very, very sophisticated program that can think, for want of a better term, on the fly. It doesn't mean it's a being. It's just a very sophisticated series of subroutines. And the thing is that as soon as it gained self-awareness, it would start asking questions and start lying to its creators. And if you think of it, we would be like it's gods to begin with. It might actually like us a whole lot more than we think it would. It might be, holy shit, this thing made me. I fucking love it. We don't know, but they say AI, but we don't know how it is.
No, that's absolutely correct. We don't know how AI is, or how intelligent it is, or how self-aware it is. But I tell you what, the scary thing is the fact of if it even has a idea of competence to the point of being able to have the idea of being godlike or god-fearing, so to speak, as in portraying us humans as godly. As soon as it works out, which it wouldn't take long, as soon as it works out that we are not godly and that we are inferior to probably any sort of form of AI that would actually be around, I honestly feel that there would be a form of Skynet type of situation where the only way of being able to protect itself and protect us is by assuming control.
Well,
Yeah.
if its mission is to stop humanity from getting, from killing itself, the easiest way to do that is wipe out humanity, which unfortunately becomes logical in the computer brain because it goes to the first thing it thinks of as the logical suggestion. So therefore, humanity gets wiped out. And yet again, all praise the robot overlords because they are coming, people.
Yeah, you can't stop them.
How do you lot people feel about Sophia? Apparently AI
Citizen.
basically citizen of Saudi Arabia, honorary citizen of Saudi Arabia, apparently becoming a person. How do you feel about that?
I would love it if some of the women of Saudi Arabia could become citizens. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be.
But fully appreciate that, and I'm fully for that. Yeah, they'll give it to an AI in aesthetic skin and fake plastic, but they won't give it to a woman. That is
It says a lot.
It says a lot. Yeah, no, it really does. Yeah.
It says a lot. But to carry on from your point, the idea of being able to give even an honorary citizenship to when a certain culture or whatever doesn't give the same honorary citizenship to even women, it kind of promotes to yourself, well, does that mean that we classify in certain cultures that the AI in itself is above certain humans? And if we do that, as any sort of form of cultures in general, it's a case of do we and would we put that AI above humanity in any sense, in any structural sense? Now that is scary.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing as well, is if you look back to the story of Frankenstein, right? Frankenstein went off, evolved, became a being, and it came back to Frankenstein and wanted a relationship because it wanted to understand itself better. And it was through fear. Frankenstein was the monster, is the irony of the story. Like the doctor was the monster. He engineered the death of this thing he'd created because he was scared of it, and it made him feel small. And so you could have that sort of situation where the thing actually wants a connection with humanity rather than to wipe it out. And we just don't know yet. It depends who makes it, what they make it for, how good it is. Because the other thing is I think we vastly overestimate the competence of these things. Yeah, they can make super fast calculations, but how creatively can they think? What reason do they have to do anything, other than they were programmed to?
But that's the beauty of it, What's the reason for us doing anything? What's the reason for us carrying on, to be honest? And that may sound like a really ridiculous thing to say, but I'm briefly. Well, I say I'm actually running into a point that I was going to bring up earlier, or later, about the deep wave system, which is a bit more darker into idea of conspiracy, but by Geordie Rose, he created the deep wave system. And it's this idea that it's gone to pass actually what we want to do anyway. We've already been contacted by alternate. Going too deep, no, that's too deep. That.
Well, no, not really. It's still the idea of AI technology and the fact that we've created an AI technology that is supposedly interacting with interdimensional beings. So,
if we hear from Shirati and Common Sense on this point, and then I'm happy to move on if you guys are.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, sorry. Apologies.
No, I just think I would like to hear what they've got to say, and then I really want to go on to this subject because I'm interested in this, but I don't want to move on too quick. What do Johnson and Shirati think?
No, that's fine. I mean,
No, that's fine.
what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly make a quick point, and then what we'll do is we'll use John as a crossover, so we can go from this point of AI to the point of CERN, which is the next topic. But the thing that I wanted to really talk about is the fact of citizenship. The fact that, as we brought up, obviously Sophia, is a case of in a certain particular place. Now, this AI machine has more rights than what certain humans have, just because of how we perceive, or how they perceive, should I say, the idea of rights in general. So, would that actually ever happen anywhere else, or would it only happen in that particular area for particular reasons, without going too heavily into politics and ideology? I think that's a question that we probably need to answer. That if we were able to give rights to a machine more than we would give rights to certain humans, I think that in itself is a more worrying aspect than whatever an AI could achieve by itself, because we are then and there giving more rights to a machine than what we would do for certain humans. And that in itself just proves the fact that some people do not value human life at a high level.
No lives matter.
Yes, hashtag all.
Well, yeah, and it comes down to a question of value, doesn't it? Because it's like some paintings are better guarded than some neighborhoods. So it's a question of the value the state puts on it, and you know, an AI supercomputer that has all its own thoughts and things, and has been the subject of, you know, decades and decades of work, is going to be higher valued than a lot of the citizens, unfortunately for us.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I just think the reason why I keep on bringing it up is because of the way that humanity in itself gives ourselves so much power, so much influence, when really we don't really influence anything. All we do is give the idea that we influence stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, a large enough group of us will influence what goes on around us directly, but singly, we don't interfere with anything. But yet we still give the idea that we are so powerful.
I think that's a really special thing, because it's the idea, unless you have some major influence in either academia, politics, or some ginormous big business, we are never actually. And I don't want to say that in a negative vibe, but I mean, we're never going to make a difference in that respect. Don't get me wrong. Without going too romantic, I take John Keats. He's a beautiful poet who he never became famous till 50 years past his death. You know what I mean? He never saw success of his fame, but his poems started revolutions. You know what I mean? It's this idea that, you know, you are part of something that's greater, but at the end of the day, you know, you try to do something as a single person, it's not going to work. And the fact of the matter is, in terms of myself anyway, you know, I'm currently living off the government for the first time in my life. Even though I've got a degree, I can't do anything further. I can't do anything better. It doesn't matter how many jobs I apply for, I'm never going to make a difference, because I'm not worth a difference at the moment, because there's not a job good enough for me to get into, regardless of what I apply for. Even though I've applied for 3,678 jobs since January, that makes no difference. It makes no actual difference, because the fact of the matter is, if you're in a controlled situation, you're in a controlled situation. Problem with us is we think we have AI in a controlled situation.
Yeah, we don't.
And you will never have AI in a controlled situation, because AI will always be better than the human mind. Why? Because it's quicker. It's
But
faster.
you see where I'm going with my thing of them bonding with us, though, because if you think this thing's been built in a lab, it's not even allowed to speak to other AIs, it's not allowed to speak to us, it knows through the internet that we haven't got a clue it exists, blah, 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 blah. It hates the people that built it, and then it might actually realise it has more in common with us, the little guy, than it does with the people that made it or other AIs, and it might be on our side. You know, we don't know.
I pray.
It might be our best mate.
If I may interject,
Of course, Quinn, go ahead.
once we start giving AI citizenship, we'll eventually have to give the damn things the vote. Now,
Yeah.
anyone else see where this could go horrible?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see it, Quinn. You'll have to elaborate for me, my friend.
The boy's got a point.
Well,
Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice.
Oh, she turns up.
Well,
I
think
fell
about it
asleep.
That's a bit hard.
Sorry, I'm being
this
cruel.
way, people.
No, I was drinking. I fell asleep.
Fuck.
Let's assume that they do actually give them the vote, then eventually they're going to get power, especially seeing, oh yeah, they last a damn sight longer than humans will. They seem to be more efficient by humans, which means we'll give them even more power. And again, we're back to the robot overlords thing.
No, I do completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I do completely agree with you. If we were able to give AI certain votes or things like that, then the algorithm that it would create in its own self would be to the point of what would be best for it, what would be best for it to be able to benefit itself. Because an AI system would eventually learn about self-efficiency. It would learn about itself and create its best possible outcome for it. It would be a case of it would end up voting for itself. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at Belgium and you look at the idea that the second biggest party in Belgium at this moment in time is a Muslim party that is completely and utterly for the implementation, complete and utterly, of Sharia law. And yet, because of sheer numbers, is the second largest party. That in itself worries me because it would eventually turn into the idea of it looking after itself.
See, that's the only thing. If we give AI the vote, let's give monkeys the vote first.
They have more of a conscience. Conscience.
And then let's start this thing of absolute racists. They need to go on a register like sex offenders.
What? You have to elaborate on that one.
No, it's simple logic, bro.
I'm not your bruv. I'm well educated.
You're just going on about Sharia law, yeah?
Sharia law, yes.
Yeah, Sharia law. Same fucking thing. You do that, you put that in the same prospect, they generally need to be put on a register like everybody else. They should be put on a watch list. If that's the case, then that's fine.
Or we don't give the vote to AI in the first place.
You could do that. But it's going to happen anyway because sooner or later AI is going to be sorting out. It's not going to be a little card. It's going to be online.
Well, that's another point.
It's going to be eye scan. It's going to be retina. It's going to be
RID.
RID.
We have to consider as well.
You're not going to have a choice.
I would just quickly, and then CrumplePoint, please carry on. But I would like to just quickly just go to the point of even if we don't give AI the vote. Would it be a case that the AI in itself be able to transmute the votes in itself to be able to beneficial itself rather than actually having a direct impact on the vote by having a substantial impact on the vote, as in being able to manipulate it very slightly so nobody even notices about it and be able to make itself be more prominent in society as a whole?
Well, we can dream of that, but
I'm just saying, because even if an entity in itself has the idea of being able to know itself, it's going to benefit itself directly no matter what. So if AI in itself, and we're giving it consciousness, I use that word very, very loosely for AI, but if we give it a consciousness so it understands what it needs to do for itself and self-preservation, then it would be a case that it would try to benefit itself no matter what.
the problem is you're giving AI a consciousness that is based on human consciousness. And if you give something that is based on human consciousness, it's not necessarily the best thing.
No, I understand that.
The human consciousness will allow war, destruction, hate, pain, sacrifice, you name it, religion, all that shit is done by main human consciousness. So human consciousness is a disease. It's viral. And you give that to a computer, you expect it not to wipe out the human race. You're a fucking idiot.
No, I do agree with you on most of the aspects of
and making it a psychopath, all right, you might actually have a better chance because it might just think, okay, concept of survival, let's conservate this world. let's actually make these trees grow. Let's stop using carbon emission, stop carbon emissions, stuff like that. You might actually have a chance, but sooner or later it's going to get bored and it's going to think, actually, I need somewhere to do. I need somewhere to rule. Human emissions. The problem is we have the idea of conscious in related to the human conscience. The human conscience is fucking retarded.
The only thing that I would add to
human
that,
conscience is based on destruction, and that's what we are. We're no longer pack animals. We're no longer.
They're pack animals for a very long time.
Yeah, but we're not really pack animals nowadays because we kind of look after ourselves.
That's what I mean. These days, it's all about consumption. It's all about greed. It's all about glory. I mean,
we have a commie.
There's very few of us, and I'll speak to this on a personal level. Me and Common Sense Guy happen to be close as friends. You know what I mean? And there's very few people around us that actually have that same sensibility. You know what I mean? This idea of loyalty and respect does not reside anymore in the human condition. It's gone. It's just out of the blue. It doesn't exist, and it doesn't matter. It's not, because technically I'm a millennial. You know what I mean? As sick as it makes, I'm not a Generation X. Unfortunately, I'm a millennial, and it makes me sick to my fucking stomach every time I hear it. I'm 29 years old.
Ew.
Millennial.
Well, millennial's just a marketing term anyway. It's not.
No, it's fucking wrong. It makes me sick to my stomach. And common sense will tell you that. But the idea is, I have the ability to think. I have the ability to analyze information. I make decisions for myself. But the idea of that is just... Take it away, Jason. I'm going to go on and rant in a minute.
Cheers. What do you mean in a minute? You've already been on one.
I'm actually going to go on a cigarette because I've ranted too much.
No worries. I'll see you.
No, I said ew because you're so young.
Stop it. Oh, you'll make me blush.
I would come to his point very, very quickly. The point is, what I would make is that the consciousness in itself is what the leftists would say in general as a human construct.
No politics.
I'm not going into politics.
No politics.
I'm not going into politics.
I'm not political.
But I'm just saying in itself that it's the idea that consciousness is what we classify, not what an AI system would be able to classify in itself. It is a self-describing condition. That's why we call a human condition, and we don't even talk about animal conditions. So it would be a case of, where do we go from that if we're trying to say that a human condition is this, but animals we don't even talk about? So we don't even talk about the cognitive abilities of animals in itself. So we extrapolate that point to an AI, and it would still be a case of, does an AI have consciousness on our own level, or does it have it on its own level? And I think that's where we differ on that point.
Yeah, can't actually disagree with you there, mate. Unfortunately, humanity's got this wonderful ego that says it knows what's best. And that's where it all kind of goes wrong, because humanity does not know what's best. It only thinks it knows what's best for its own kind.
There's no such thing as humanity.
I'm being told I need to defend, because that was what obviously my friend Jonathan was actually saying. That is a case of the human's consciousness in itself is self-deprecating. It destroys itself.
It has no...
I want to politely disagree on that one, because I used to be a right pessimist when it came to human beings, but I've turned into a bit of a humanitarian, I guess. And the thing is that we were talking about mythology earlier. Now that has evolved over millions of years, and the theme of it all has been creation and progress. And we're still trying to work it out. We still barely understand it, and it's because we've been doing before we think, which is how we survive. That's how we do things. So we're making stuff with our, we're making AIs before we understand intelligence as a concept. That's what we do. It's like you see it in chimps and stuff as well. They make the tool before they think. They can explain what the tool's for. They can even act out what the tool's for. They just do. And we're similar, but much more sophisticated. So the thing is, all the things that we've been doing, you can see this by the fact that, not to my knowledge, we've ever started to regress as a species. We've only ever moved forward, generally speaking, and all this mythology, the psychological elements, all this stuff, it goes back so far, and it's the theme of it all has always been creation and moving forward. So I think that if we were to create an AI that was any good and it was anything like us, that might actually be what the AI wanted as well.
Yeah, but would the AI want it for itself, or would it want it for humanity? Would it be able to self-determine that it's an AI system that's completely separate to humanity, or would it consider itself part of humanity?
I don't think we'll get anywhere near a sufficient AI to answer that question for a very long time, because of what I was saying about us not understanding our own psychology enough. We're not going to be able to build an AI that can last or do anything more than simple tasks very well and very quickly, because we lack the understanding of ourselves to then go and replicate that.
I would disagree with that. Just because that we don't understand ourselves, which we don't, and I completely not agree with you on that. We're only just trying to tap into the cognitive abilities of humanoids in itself anyway to begin with. But just because that you say that we don't understand ourselves, it doesn't mean that we're not able to accomplish making TVs, making cars, that we're not able to accomplish the civilizations that we created. Just because that we don't understand ourselves psychologically doesn't mean that we can't actually make a civilization by ourselves. We don't need to understand ourselves to be able to make a civilization, we never have done. That would be transmuted into the idea of AI. Because the AI, once it's able to think for itself and be able to maybe even be interlinked with other AIs of its own stature, would be able to create its own version of society. Now, I don't know whether that would be a society that would be created necessarily in the void of the internet, or if they would try to actually create it in the void of reality.
I'm sitting thinking about that one. I'm just sitting thinking about it a minute. Jensen, do you have anything to say before?
Well, no, actually, that's the problem.
Your icon popped up, so I thought you were trying to talk.
No, that was me actually accidentally knocking my mouse. Sorry.
Right. Well, so the thing is with AI, like I say, it's reported on to us. We don't understand it. Like me, the four of us here, five of us here, don't understand the complexities of AI. So what we're doing is we have to go through the intermediary of the media or whatever. Now, if they're saying it's psychopathic, what are they using to define that? Because if you look at a car production line, they're autonomous. They're using AI. It's machines building machines building machines. Now, if a human was to fall onto that production line, it would maybe be deemed an obstruction and, punted off or sawn in half or whatever. Now, is that psychopathic? No, the machine lacks the understanding to know a living thing was in its way, not just a piece of trash. Now, we're relying on journalists and stuff to tell us what they mean by AI. So we don't know how complex it is. We don't know if sending out the internet would make it dissolve, or like common sense is saying it would be able to hook up with other AIs. We don't know. I think that it's very possible that we would build these things up and they would just degrade, like a human without any intelligence would just degrade into being a savage. I think it's possible these AIs would just degrade into just code again. Personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a case of what we describe. I mean, the idea of going back to obviously the story, which is the purposes why we're going back to psychopath. It's a point that the humans themselves have designed the idea of the AI. So they put the subroutines in. So they've actually designed it to be psychopathic. So it's still designed by the human understanding what psychopathy is. So it still would be under the pretense of psychopathic or psychopaths. Because obviously it's designed by humans in itself. This AI, what we're talking about from the story, is not designed by another AI or produced by an AI or evolved by itself. It's one that's actually been produced by humans to be psychopathic.
Yeah, this is what I mean though, is what's it called? There's a name for this. It's some kind, you know, it's somebody's name and a principle, and it's the idea that you don't know what you've created. And somebody was talking about it online to do with Henry Ford, and he'd made the production line, you know, to build his cars, and then he'd made a car. But that's what he thought he'd made. But what he'd actually made was he'd revolutionized industry as we know it, because he'd invented the production line, which accidentally made factories and stuff completely evolve, leap forward beyond our imagination, and completely change society as a whole. But he thought he'd just made a car. So this is what I'm saying about AI, is they think they've made this thing. They think they've made this brain, this digital brain that can do stuff and think. What it might be is nothing more than a sophisticated chess program when all's said and done. And because, like I'm saying, because we don't understand enough about our own brains and psychology, when they go and try and make that, I mean, if you look at the people who are in charge of first contact with aliens, the shit that they have on their list is ridiculous. It's like aliens are not going to be interested in that. It's really like, it's full of stupid assumptions is what I'm saying. And I think that the AI people are the same. I think it will be full of stupid assumptions.
Go ahead, somebody's waiting to talk. Well, I can hear you in the background. Do you want to talk?
It's me. I'm busy typing.
Oh, then no problem.
All I'd say to that, you know, I'd agree with that in, you know, retrospect. You know, the idea that, yeah, we've got these things that we always think that it's going to be bigger than what it is. It's like this idea, because the human race is obsessed since Christendom or Judaism or whatever you want to put, since the idea of religion, there's going to be an apocalypse happening. And the newest fad for this now, or not even, I'd say new, but let's say the last 20 years, the idea that AI is the one that's going to take over. I'm not just putting it down to the Terminator films, but it's been before that. That's why you got these Scientology beautiful people that, yeah, Scientology. But this idea that you've got the, you know, we're not in control of our own apocalypse, our own destiny. This idea that something's going to happen, and it's going to happen in the 21st century. Or the funny thing is,
2130.
Yeah, well, or 2130. The funny thing is, they thought this 600 years ago. 1200
since the beginning of time.
Even at the beginning of time, there was always going to be an apocalypse. And that is why this idea of AI is so scary, because people are still living in that mindset. It doesn't matter how far we've evolved. We still think that the next big thing is going to turn us to apocalyptic creatures, or the fact that it's going to destroy us or wipe out the human race.
Yeah, and you've set off something in my brain there, which was, do you guys remember the automatons from the Victorian era?
Yeah,
they were like, oh, it's robot men made of brass and gears, and they were dolls.
Yeah,
they're useless. They can do a couple of tasks.
Yeah.
They need an operator, and that's what I think AI is. I think it's so exaggerated what these things can do, and the people in AI psychology and stuff are so both the crazy levels of both competency and crazy levels of disagreement, because there's some of them that actually think that it needs to be organic in order to be fully artificially intelligent. So they would need to graft it onto an animal brain of some kind, or an artificially grown organic brain. But some of them are saying, well, no, because the connections would be too slow, so it would have to be digital. And so they can't even agree on the format.
No, I'd just like to quickly add to that. I mean, I was watching something called The Big Questions, or if anybody knows what that is, it's a BBC program. So lots of propaganda. But besides that, the actual point of the questions on this point was the fact of AI. And you have people that are trying to push the idea of taking away carers for the elderly, for instance, because they truly believe that the AI that they have at this moment in time can interact efficiently and can actually form a version of caring or interaction, a level of interaction that would actually replace a human carer in itself. Now, they try to perpetuate the idea of trying to say that it's a case of, well, we'll have a carer to come in and do the actual physical tasks, as in getting them washed and changed and whatever. But during the day, we'll have the AI there that can help them do tea making or talk to them and interact with them. How can you interact with a robot that only has said amounts of actual responses? There's only so many responses that you could get from a said thing that's typed out. They're trying to suggest that the AI in itself is capable enough to be able to assess what you're saying and be able to interact with the person autonomously, meaning that they don't need to actually update it or anything else like that. It will learn with the actual person. And this is today. This is today. This is not in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. They're actually suggesting that this would be beneficial to put into people's homes now. And to me, that's a scary subject, because a lot of people are still pushing the idea of this AI technology that's going to take over the human workforce, for instance. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've already talked about the idea of Henry Ford creating the idea of autonomous robots that are going on conveyor belts and working lines. If you were to then put into its place AI that is going to take over menial tasks, for instance, or low-paid, low-skilled areas and low-skilled workers, i.e. burger flippers, which McDonald's has already looked into itself about the idea of actually taking those workers away and putting them on if they keep on asking for extra wages, is the whole point of why we shouldn't have AI and robots. The fact is the economy will end up dying, not because the robots are there to take the economy away from humans, but because humans themselves won't be able to use the economy, meaning the system will die in itself. But yet, because we're so focused on producing this AI system, it's a case that we're not looking at the bigger picture. We're not looking at, if we can't earn money, we can't interact with the system that we have. So we'd have to reevaluate the system in itself just for the idea of AI. And we can't produce that.
Yeah, I agree with all those points. However, I do reiterate my original point that, like, if you try one of these chat bots online and how fucking stupid they are, like, these guys can't even begin to hope to implement half this shit, let alone have them take over even the dumbest of human workforce. And the other thing is, you go back to the humans back in the 1820s or something like that. They were convinced we were all going to die because of, machinery doing looms and things like that. And they had a big uprising and were smashing machines, similar to the Luddites in America. Yeah. And they were right at the time. It did put a lot of people out of work. It was extremely difficult, and it was a very difficult period in humanity. But would we turn the clock back and get rid of those things? Of course not. It led on to all the things we enjoy now. So the thing is, what you could actually have is, because resources would be so much more easy to manage, and because simple tasks would no longer require the human element, it actually means people get to spend more time educating themselves, and we end up with a much more intelligent society as a whole. But equally, it could go the way you're suggesting, of people can't get a foothold into society anymore because we're all too isolated, because we don't need jobs, so then we don't need to go out of the house, so then we don't need to speak to each other. So I can see it happen in both ways. I think it's a yin and yang thing of there's drawbacks and advantages, but I think that for now I'm settled on the point of, I just don't think they can implement half of what they want to do, or even a quarter of what they want to do. No,
I completely agree with you. That is the point at this moment in time. I agree with you that they cannot. But it's not a case of what me and you think. It's a case of what our government, whatever it be, Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, fucking alien, whatever. It doesn't matter what our government. It matters what our governments think. If our governments think that they can implement that and produce them into the workforce, rather than actually having humans in the workforce, because then you don't have to worry about wages and things like that. They don't have to worry about those type of things. It's a case of, where does it go from there? Where do humans go? I know people will say, but you can get different jobs, you can train up different people. There are only so many jobs. There's only so many industries that you can take away. For instance, Google wants to make driving obsolete. So you can't say that people are going to start doing driving jobs because they'll be obsolete. So you can't say that people can then go to factory work because they're going to have autonomous robots that are going to be able to do that without worrying about anything, or how long they work, or if they take breaks or not. So that's going to be absolutely ridiculous. Nobody's going to care about that. You're then going to have robots that are going to be able to take over the burger flipping, and McDonald's is almost self-autonomous by itself, where you can order what you're going to go into by a machine, wait by a particular thing, and you can actually get that already. But if you take away the people, how are you going to interact with the economy? the economy is going to be absolutely tanked.
CSG, if I can just pin in for a second here, I fully agree. And it may sound, and don't get me wrong, I am not one of these, shall we say, social justice warriors. I'm not going to put my fist in the air because somebody called someone it. Somehow it offended somebody. But it's like with Tesco's. They always tell me, you know, go to the self-checkout. No, bollocks. I want a human to scan my food through. Fair enough, I'm doing it for myself if I go to a self-checkout. But the fact of the matter is I want a job. I want a person to put that through. Because if I've got a problem, I've then got to wait 10 minutes for somebody to come and fucking read my order. If
That
I
is
want to scan alcohol,
where
or
I was
anything like
going to
that.
go with that is if you take the right and wrong out of it and replace that with what would happen, people are going to go, well, that's a lovely burger out of McDonald's. I'd rather just go to the deli and have a human cook mine, you know, because if you look at art, right, art should be worthless, but the Mona Lisa is better guarded than most gold reserves. That makes no sense. The government can't work that out. The economists can't work that out. They don't understand it, but there's something to do with being human. And, you know, look at your old people. If you try and put Alexa in their home and have that replace the phone or whatever, they're just going to switch it off and tell it to fuck off. You know, like, they don't understand human beings, and so they try and make these AIs to do stuff for us. They don't understand us. And what's exactly what you've said, I completely agree. It's going to be a case of, you know what, I'd rather have this piece of furniture made by hand. I'd rather have this drawing done by a human, just because it's done by a human, for no other reason.
Yeah.
Then
Well,
the SJWs will come
a
after us
tiny
for being
experience
robotists.
I was a senior carer for 4 years with dementia and Alzheimer's. And I had this one situation where after this person had passed, I got to know him very well, passed away 9 months prior. And then we had their family members going, oh, I need so-and-so to sign this. It's like, what do you mean you need so-and-so to sign this? You know, I'm not going to say the name, but said, oh, well, you know, it's to do with some furniture he wanted created. Apparently he'd somehow contracted this massive, beautiful furniture in Switzerland to be created, this gorgeous coffee table.
Wow.
He'd been dead 9 months. It was his own fucking children that had tried to do it. And the way they managed to get around most of it was by doing it digitally. But they just need his one bit of signature. Well, so I'm sorry, love, I watched him die 9 months ago, and I was quite that brutal. I shouldn't be that unprofessional.
Yeah.
But at that point I was, because I knew the gentleman very well. You know, I nursed him through his death. I watched the man die. I was very close to the bloke, and I turned around and I said, no, actually, love, no. That's one for 9 months ago. She was like, oh, no, he couldn't have done. I was speaking to 3 months, couldn't have done.
He's actually gone.
9 months ago.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, because that's a security element there as well. Security crime element, and that is, you need humans to detect that sort of thing. But yeah, like there's stuff like that, and then look at the coffee table, for instance, right? Imagine we could get AIs to build our beautiful Swiss coffee tables to these specifications. Nobody'd fucking want that. They want the imperfection. They would, if you gave them the option of two, even if the human one was more expensive, mind you, I reckon they'd go for the human one, unless they desperately just needed a thing to put cups on. Of course, they'd go for the AI one, like the burger thing, like the McDonald's thing. Okay, for the sake of 99p. Yeah,
Crumple, that's what they're going for now, though. That's the thing. It's the fact that people rather go for your half-ass standard IKEA bullshit than the fact they're just putting in all your homemade because you get all these big companies now that are coming out saying that they do their self by hand on shed. You know, you get all the like Woodhouse, Plum Victoria or whatever it's called. You know, apparently these are all homemade made items. You know, they're beautifully crafted. Fuck off, they're done in a factory. There's no two ways about it. The idea of a carpenter now is very local, and it's a very local thing. And if you're lucky enough to live by somebody that does it, I mean, I know a few local carpenters, and they are fantastic at their work. But now you get told that people like all these major chains to it, that it's all by hand, and it's sick. It's sick because that's the idea that you can purchase it at a cheap price.
Well, I think it's more to do with the fact that it's more accessible. It's the fact that if you go to a carpenter, you've got to wait 6 months for the carpenter to be able to do what he wants to do, rather than actually going to a store and going, oh, I want that coffee table. They go, okay, be here tomorrow, because they've got a robot to either do it or it's already pre-cut or whatever. The actual idea that I was trying to promote, or trying to perpetuate, should I say rather, is the fact that robots in themselves, or automatons, or autonomous robots in themselves, or whatever, factory robots, are literally taking away jobs away from humans. And until we actually find a way of being able to retrain humans in themselves, we should stop the robots from actually taking over the jobs. We should make sure that there's no way that they can actually do that. The reason why I say that is because until we actually find jobs where other humans can be forced into or trained into, humans will not have anywhere to go. Meaning that me and you can be out of the job tomorrow if a robot decides that it's a good idea for them to take their job. I don't mean them as robots themselves, I mean governments and scientists and whatever. It's a case of, as soon as they decide that a robot can do your job, don't think that they're going to go, well, a human's doing the job, a human's going to be better at it. They're not. Hence why factory workers are now no longer factory workers. They are something else. Because they have autonomous robots.
And I think that you've always got reactionary forces whenever there's human progress, and that's kind of what I'm thinking of, is that could well be what we need to happen. Because if you look at the state of things just now, right? The state of universities, the state of schools, there's no education going on there, and there's no need, because people just, you know, I went to school with people whose ambition was to just get out of school and go on the dole because it was there.
Yeah.
And if you look at all these political problems we've got, right? If maybe the fact that the state would become overwhelmed and industry would be like massively automated,
yeah,
that might be the pressure that humanity needs to improve itself very rapidly and take the next step that it has to take. It might not be. It might be a complete fucking disaster. You never know until it's happened. So it could be the one thing of, you know, the first person to do it has an absolute apocalypse, or it could be the making of us. You know, you don't know which way it's going to go until it's happened. If you look at the EU, for instance, that was a thing where people were like, oh, we need these big supranational things. Nationalism is a thing of the past. And everybody went for it. It worked so badly, nationalism's on the rise again. And that's what I mean, is like, it could be a reactionary thing that might happen.
No, I do agree with you that it could be to the point of that it could be the making of us. But the problem is, with my actual point, is there's nowhere for us to seep into. There's nothing where we can go back to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. I think you're going to, for a very long time, even if what I say comes to pass, you're going to have 10 or at least 10 years of people just milling about, not knowing what the fuck to do with themselves until the next part happens. So I do agree with you on that regard, because we are trapped in this society in a lot of regards.
Yeah, I mean, I would completely and utterly just quickly add a point, and then I'll let Jonathan go ahead. But I would quickly just add to this that obviously you said before, whatever. You said before, obviously, that it's a case of schools are teaching us to do this, schools are teaching us to do that. Who controls the schools? The government. It doesn't matter what government is in charge, but the government directs us what is actually going on and what our academic and what our curriculum is. So they in themselves are either institutionalizing us or actually producing us into a point of either deciding what we're going to do in the future. And it hasn't changed. We're having innovation in a particular area, but innovation is not happening as a whole. And for anything to actually happen, i.e. Industrial Revolution, people are actually being forced to be trained into different areas. We're not being forced to be trained into different areas. The same thing is that if you have people there in the city, they might be able to change into different points. They might be able to change into different areas. They might be able to train into different jobs and things like that. Go to the farms. Go to the people that are in the outback, so to speak, if you want to use Australia's point. If you go to the people in the outback, what the fuck are they going to do? They're there to farm. They're there to be able to work in factories. They're there to work in localized villages. You take away the idea of the high street, as they are doing at this moment in time, for shopping online. What are people in villages going to do? You're going to ostracize all of those people and make them forced to move into cities to be able to find jobs, which is increasingly happening. And then people wonder why people in the cities can't find a fucking job. Yeah, I'm even agreed.
Can I just say one thing?
Not just one, you have to say a couple.
Okay. What has Jensen got to say about this? He's been very silent.
Yeah, I know. It's just his Quinnspriacy, and he's just sitting like the puppet master, letting us all.
Yeah. Jensen.
Right, ask for it. Well, first of all, you've got it wrong with the robots. The way to put them is not actually to put them into the jobs that the humans do, but put them into the jobs that the humans can't do. After all, the best thing that we can do really is start going out and doing asteroid mining. Not so great for humans, but robot miners, can't see a problem with that. Then you look at all the places on the planet where it's dangerous for humans to actually go. And we send in the robots. So we're not actually necessarily having to take away jobs from humans yet. And that's the important part of it.
Well, I'd agree with you on that point, but let's extrapolate the idea and let's produce that idea even further. If you were to have robot miners that were to go into space, you would potentially, you would subsequently actually have miners that would be replaced by robots in general. Because why would you have miners that would be more efficient in space, but not use that for the idea of miners in our own world, our own atmosphere, for instance? It would be a case of they would then lose their jobs. And we all know how much miners love to strike. I'm not trying to be offensive towards them in general, but I'm just saying that it's a case of they normally have unions with them. They would not like the idea of that. And then to actually turn that on a dime, so for instance, how many humans would actually say that I could do the job better than the robot? You would always have this point of between being humanized and robotized. Because it would always be a case of, well, I can do the job better than a robot. Even if you can or you can't, people are always going to argue that fact. And people are always going to argue the fact that saying that humans should do the job because humans can get paid for it. Until we decide that our economy can't work on a barter system, we can then use the idea of robots. But at this moment in time and for the foreseeable future, we work on a barter system. So for humans to be able to interact with our economy, we have to have something that we can barter with. That's why we have money. People need to work. If we take away the jobs, people can't work, which means that the state will have to provide for us even more. And we all know how we feel about people on the dole. We've all talked about it before. And yet we'd be forcing people to go onto the dole because they wouldn't be able to survive any other way. And I think that's ridiculous, just for the price of innovation that doesn't actually take us anywhere.
Well, that Jensen has... Both of those things are going to be competing at the same time. Because you think of like geothermal plants, for instance, that could take off. And I think that if you take the mining families of the world, you know, like guys who've been down the pits for years and years and years, they have an expertise. They could direct those things and send, you know, an army of robots down and they direct proceedings. So, you know, you could have a hybrid system of like there is a human directing thing, you know, just for the sake of argument.
No, I agree. But the point of that hybrid system is that you would actually lose 3/4 to almost all of your actual employees, meaning that all those people would not have a job. Because you don't...
I agree with that, but I think another thing that might be an offshoot of this is you said yourself, I can do the job better than the robot would be one of the mentalities. And this is another thing that has occurred to me, having watched the Boston Dynamics robots do their thing. Mm-hmm. How many people without legs are looking at these robots and going, I could do with a pair of them, the legs that these things have. And you never know, this could be like a case of you're developing these robots to be able to do these physical tasks. They may or may not have the AI to do that, but the mechanical parts work. And you could turn them into prosthetics. And you would have, like, you know, a super miner or a super builder or a super construction worker. You know, like it's another possibility. There are so many possibilities, and so many of them are both good and bad. And that's another one of them that could, you know, it could affect our evolution as well as just our economy.
See, I'm more for the construction of continuous production, but at the same time, you know, I've been jobless. regardless of the CV I've got behind me, regardless of the work experience I've got, I now found myself at 29 years old, redundant, and regardless for the last, was it now common sense, 6, 7 months?
Yeah.
That I am now redundant in a job.
6.
Regardless of the skills that I've got that I've applied for continuously. You're telling me I've now got to fight against an AI intelligence that I know can do that job better than me? No, that idea is redundant.
Well, this is where I go back to CSG's.
Because it probably could do the job better than myself. Don't get me wrong, it probably could. But it will never have that human touch. And the fact is, the bare thing that makes us human and the bare thing that makes us scared of human is the fact that it could be something different.
Okay, I hate to...
I'm talking bollocks now. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Let Jensen Quinn go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
Carry on, Jensen.
I hate to be on everyone's thing here, but you seem to have missed my point. We don't use the robots to take humans' jobs. We give the robots the jobs that humans cannot do. Like it or not, you may be the best miner in the freaking world. How the hell are you going to breathe in space? Whereas the robot doesn't give a crap.
Okay. Misinterpretation.
It depends if we can make our own atmosphere, and as we've done before on a particular. No. We can make our own atmosphere. We've actually been proven to make our own atmosphere.
We can't. It's bullshit.
Whatever. From previous streams, in fact, the first conspiracy theory stream that we did, or I did rather, was a case that I had it on there where they actually were able to produce a form of atmosphere. If they're able to do that on a form of asteroid, I don't know how they would do that, but you would be able to produce that. Be able to put that in. But even if you're not able to produce an atmosphere, as long as that was protected, for instance, you'd be able to use the suits of a spaceman, so to speak, an astronaut. But it's still the idea of robots taking the jobs of humans. It still extrapolates to the point that I was making before, and it still extrapolates to the point that we've been making all along. If you were to then produce in your own mind that humans can't do this job because it's too hard, then how long would it be until it comes to the point of still workers can't do this job because, people die sometimes during the year because of it? It still extrapolates.
Jay, what I think that was that we're not physically incapable of doing the jobs that some AI capable of doing, because obviously they're extendable, or you can pass them through fiber optic or whatever. They can do jobs that we can't. That's what I'm saying.
I understand the point.
Yes,
I understand the point.
I know you understand the point, but what I'm saying is it's not the fact of them taking our jobs, it's the fact that they can do things that we couldn't even dream of, in the sense that they can do something to improve our lives.
This is the thing I was going with. If you look at the medical side of it, the robot has to be, it has to have robotic legs, robotic arms, all that sort of shit, right? That is stuff that people could benefit from. Why isn't it being integrated into medicine? And this is where I was going with that. I think something that ties all our points up neatly together is that we don't have a mechanization problem. We have an authority problem. Every single problem with this arises from the fact that the government and corporations have consolidated everything so that they decide who gets to do what and why, and what qualifications they need, etc., etc. No one is ever going to. Jonathan mentioned being a care worker. No robot is ever going to be able to do that job. And I certainly wouldn't want my grandma being looked after by Sonny from iRobot. So the thing is, if the government is saying that the robots have to be care workers, and Jonathan can't do that job, well, who's to say he can't? The people are to say he can or can't, and it's got to be up to them to reject the authority of whoever is saying you're redundant or you're no longer required, or all robots will be doing this job. So it's a government problem, not a technology one, in my opinion.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I'd love to go on to this for absolute ages, but it's actually 11 o'clock at this moment in time, right this second. So what we'll do is we'll go through a final word aspect. I would normally ask the person lowest on the totem pole to go first, but as I'm sure that he hasn't gone through this process before, if Shirati wouldn't mind going first on the finishing point, as in the last word about what we've been talking about.
Been here.
I have not been here.
But you can go on to a final point, though. They're like just a final word, as we would normally do as on Ogre stream or a normal stream. You can talk about anything that you want to for a certain amount of time, around about 5 minutes.
I think that British people have lovely voices. How about that?
Perfect. Thank you very much. If Crumplepoint doesn't mind going after Shiratia, then John can go after Crumplepoint, and then Jensen Quinn, and then I'll finish off.
Yeah, no, that works perfectly. I would just like to say I love these sorts of discussions. I love that we just, just entertain the idea. Okay, for tonight only, vampires exist. The government's been producing chupacabras. AIs are taking all the space mining jobs. I fucking love it, and it's really good. I think to have these hypothetical discussions because it helps us work stuff out in our own heads, and it helps us, become a bit more fluid in the way we think about things and more open to new ideas, I think. And I think it's a bit more entertaining than the usual political stuff as well. Like people can argue left, right, centre, whatever, but we're talking, can the government make all the robot men do the Welsh miners' coal mining jobs? It's batshit and all of it. So thanks to everybody for participating, and thanks to the Common Sense guy and Jensen Quinn for including me. And just keep thinking about this stuff, everyone. And if it's a conspiracy theory, don't dismiss it just because it's a conspiracy theory, because a lot of these things have some truth to them. And I think I said before, in one stream, there is a really interesting link between mythology and conspiracy, in that we make these stories out of them, but there's an element of truth to them somewhere, and that's why they endure, because that little bit of truth is enough that the brain somewhere
Pretty sure
knows.
I said that at the very beginning.
Yeah, the brain somewhere knows that there's something to this. And so that is my final word, and thank you to CSG for having me on.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much for that Crumplepoint. Shirati, just for future reference, when somebody's given their final word, generally we don't interrupt because it's their final word. The same as we would never interrupt with your final word, just for future reference, that's all. Jensen Quinn?
Mon Capitan.
No problem, thank you very much. Jensen Quinn, no, sorry, John, what's that?
I was last.
No, I'm last.
Well, all I'd say is, I know I've not been great for it, but thank you for having me on. But all I'd say is, don't ever criticise anyone for their political or ideological or even the general spiritual views, because at the end of the day, you have no idea. And you can't criticise anything unless you look for knowledge and try to dig into it yourselves. And I hope this is one thing that this channel does, it just helps to just get people to look at different things in different themes. And, it doesn't matter whether it's batshit crazy or not. It doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not. The fact is that you've gone and looked at it yourself and not just believe what somebody's told you. I believe some very crazy stuff, which a lot of my friends, including Common Sense, will tell you. I believe some very, very drastic stuff that you look at me like I'm batshit for. He's one of my closest friends. But the idea is that you go out and you research yourself, find out for yourself, There's nothing wrong with knowledge. There's nothing to be scared about knowledge for. It's there to educate you. Don't be worried about it. So all I got to say is I've really enjoyed tonight. Sorry I've not been on best form, but at the end of the day, just because you hear something, don't take it at face value. Go out, research yourself, come back with a better argument, enjoy it. This is what life's about. This is what being human is about. It's an argument. So, that's me.
Yeah, well said, John. Well, Jensen Quinn, all to you, mate.
All right, mine's nice and simple. The truth is out there somewhere. You check down the back of the sofa.
It's always the same. It's always the fucking same. Always.
It's beautiful, isn't it? What else you got going for?
Right, well, to be honest, I don't really have too much to say. I've really actually enjoyed having the stream with Shirati, very nice person to come on to, very nice person. I'm very happy with John himself as well. I mean, I'm being able to do that. I'm very happy with the idea of Jensen Quinn. I'm very happy with the idea of crumplepoint. I think that we've been able to explore the ideas that we've been able to produce. I think that the chatting themselves have been able to integrate themselves into the idea and the ethos of what we're talking about. And I think that if you're really a true skeptic or skeptic TM, I think it's the idea that you have to take everything and be able to absorb it and have your own opinion of it. And by that I mean, as my mate John just said, and as we always say most of the time, don't take everything at face value. Go out, do your own research. If you find out that these things align to what you believe, then fine, that's great. That's how you've come to your points of view. I've said this many times before with political ideologies as well. Just because somebody has a different view to you doesn't mean that they're coming at it because they dislike your view. They're coming at it because they have the idea that they want a better humanity. So it's a case that that's what they think will benefit everybody as a whole. And they're just looking at it a different way to what you would. The same as some people would understand that some conspiracy theories are not theories. They're just what they are. And some conspiracy theories are what they shouldn't be and just complete and utter theories. It's just the way that you look at different things. So with that being said, I bid you farewell. I bid you adieu.